I'm going to try and survive the next 100 days in Sons of the Forest, all the while trying to unearth the mysteries of an eccentric billionaire and his lost family. After my crash landing with the helicopter and being knocked out by a strange and mysterious person, I finally awoke the third time around with nothing more than an emergency pack and a few bits and bobs that I scavenged from the crash site. Oh, and yes, there's Calvin, a bit beaten up, but he looks like he could do us a whole lot of good. I continue scrounging around for items that could help me through my first night on this island, all the while making my way to a point of interest on my GPS that I got from my emergency pack. Reaching my destination, I had discovered a cave that led to a bunker. I was quite intrigued with this, so I explored it, making sure that it was actually safe for me to be in it. Satisfied with the results, I began messing around with things. There was a really neat 3D printer that could create a bunch of things. And yeah, I also tried my hand at building a tent for the first time. It turned out pretty okay, I guess. Although I felt much safer sleeping indoors in the bunker. Day 2. As I was low on food, I decided to craft a fish trap and give that a try. Of course, I didn't really know how it would work. I just placed it down and hoped for the best. However, I had other plans. I wanted to investigate another point of interest, though this one seemed to be in the middle of the ocean, so I had to swim across to it. At the same time, not wanting to attract the attention of any of the sharks. Once at the raft, I began searching for clues that could help. There was not much, but I did find something that could be of great use to me. Oh yeah, a pistol, baby. Now that's a really good find. Back at my fish trap, I was rather unlucky, but never fear, as Calvin was near. I knew he was useful for something. Look at all that juicy fish. Wow! Someone's going to bed with a full belly tonight. Day 3. I started off with cooking up some fish, as I had a bit of an adventure ahead of me. Yep, off to another point of interest. But when I reached there, oh man, was this a messed up sight or what? Anyways, it turned out that I needed to get to the body somehow. Instinctively, I tried to cut the rope, and by doing that, I got access to the body and its contents. This is where I was able to acquire the flashlight. Not wanting to spend much time at this site, I moved over to a nearby campsite where I spent the night. But before getting to this site, I had to pass through a cannibal base. Whoa, those guys. Now, they just freak me out. Day 4, I started with checking out the bunker that was at the campsite I camped at. It was a bit spooky to get in there, as I had no idea what to expect. Though once in the bunker, I soon realized it was all good. The best part was, it had supplies. A ton of juicy supplies. So I stocked up on whatever I could and headed off back to the beach. Once at the beach, I began experimenting with my supplies, testing out different crafting recipes, and tried to figure out how things worked. Oh yeah, I got some storage for my rocks too. Yeah, quite strange. I know. It was day 5, and I journeyed all the way across the map to my next point of interest, passing more cannibal bases, making sure not to be seen. Eventually, I reached the destination. However, I had hit a dead end. Turns out, it was a gravesite, and it seemed to me that I would need to get something to help me dig up this grave. Perfect. Just what I needed. I was off to another interesting point of the map. I just really wanted to scope out the land and see what it had to offer. Anyways, I had reached the GPS location. This time, it led me to a cannibal base. Fortunately, I decided to craft a spear. And boy, did that come in handy. You see, at this base, there was this poor, lonesome dude. And I thought I'd try and take him on. Quite unlucky for that guy, as I was super fast with my spear jabbing skills, taking him out in an instant. I then searched the base for some juicy loot. And then, peeps, and then, you see, not too far from this base was the freaking motherlode of all loot drops. I was in heaven, grabbing everything and anything I could before running off to find a place to camp for the night. If only it was that easy. You see, I couldn't really sleep because I had these little scribber-reebers around me. Yeah, I was really scared. It was night and I couldn't see a thing. So I tried my best to take all of them out. And finally, without dying, I was able to have a restful hour's sleep, I think. Yeah, something like that. Day 7, I made my way back to the very first bunker. I felt that it was home and the most safest place to be in. Also, it was quite central to everything. On my way, I met a strange three-legged lady in white. She didn't seem hostile, and I really didn't know what to do with her. But also, I noticed that she didn't like being followed, because just like that, she was off, never to be seen again. Later that day, I tried taking out some birds I found at a nearby pond. I figured it was the best way to get some feathers for crafting arrows. Not long after that side quest, I'd reached the bunker and chilled there for the rest of the day. Ah yes, day 8. Well, I thought I could get a base going. A treehouse seemed to be a great idea. Together, Calvin and I started chopping down trees for logs. All was going well, and I was busy preparing the items for the build. When suddenly, a group of cannibals invaded our space, and to top it off, Calvin left me alone to deal with these punks. So I did the sensible thing. I got my stuff together and ran off to the beach. Man, was I ticked off? All that work for nothing? I had to do something to get them back, and so I waited nearby to see what they would do. These punks, well, they started separating from their group. Oh man, this made it quite easy for me to pick them off one by one. And I was able to do so, taking them out one by one. Such little squeeps. Day 9, I went out exploring, trying to unlock the secrets of this mysterious island. That's when I came across a campsite. Of course, I was quite interested in checking this place out, looting its crates and anything else I could find. It so happens that at this very campsite, I was able to grab the modern axe. Now this was a game changer, as it was much more stronger than the axe I already had. So I had to test it out somehow. Unfortunately, deers were too fast for me to actually have a shot at them. But those mutants, they were inquisitive creatures with not much smarts. This modern axe certainly did the job. Ah yes, now this is the life. A good warm fire and some meat on the burn. What else can you ask for? Day 10. Now this was an eventful day. The bunker I was at, well, it was under attack by a tribe of cannibals. I could tell they meant business because they brought out the big guns. Jeez, did I struggle trying to fight them off? There was this giant, and he just bashed me around like a rag doll. But I stood my ground and smashed his lights out. Then there was a more nimble fella. Of course, he didn't stand a chance. At this point, I thought all was clear, but out of nowhere, this dude just jumped in and knocked me out like a hot sack of potatoes. Like, what the freak? Eventually, I woke up, tied to a pole in a nearby cannibal base. I freed myself, grabbed my things, and headed straight back for base. By the time I got back to base, I spotted a few stragglers and decided to go in for the kill. Took him out, and well, I thought I had enough of this thing, deciding to hide in my bunker, waiting for the heat to die down. Oh boy, I wasn't looking forward for this part. Yeah, it was time to check out those caves. Now these caves were so freaking eerily spooky, I had no idea how I was going to do this. And also, these caves had so many freaking mutants. One thing for sure, I had to take this slow. I mean, really slow. Clearing out each room before moving on to the next. Another cool thing from this is that if you took out a mutant, you would be able to get its armor. And that you could use to fight off more mutants and get more armor. Still though, there were tons of mutants in this cave. Not forgetting this big fella right here. It's a good thing we had explosives. That took him out right away. And so I pressed on, fighting my way through this cave, and I must just say, this took forever. There was just too many mutants to fight off. But after some time, I finally made it to where I needed to go, and that was to get the rope gun. Now that was something. Now it was just time to backtrack and head back to the entrance, which I did on day 12. And I thought, you know what? I needed a bit of a break. So I cooked up a storm and camped in for the night. Winter had set in, and over the next 2 days, I decided to travel to the other side of the map. Knowing that this could be a long journey, I stopped at one of the bunkers to stock up for some food and to rest, moving onwards to explore the new territory. Although I did find myself in a bit of a pickle. I had somehow fallen off the side of a cliff and onto a little platform on the mountain. Fortunately, I had just got the rope gun. It was time for it to use its magic. What do you know? I lived to face another day. On my journey to the other side of the map, I came across a few campsites which had next to nothing to offer me. Also passing some sort of bunker that needed a keycard before finally resting at the docks, where I set up camp and had a good long rest. Day 15. As I was still new to the world, I thought I'd go ahead and check out some of the base defense builds, chopping down some trees for logs and then trying to build some sort of fence. While doing so, I noticed a tribe of cannibals nearby. And you guessed it, they were after Kelvin and I, so we had to drop what we were doing and make a break for it. One thing I did notice though was that they were afraid of water, and I thought it was a good opportunity to have a little fun with them. I then singled one of them and charged at him head on, knocking him out with my axe. The others were still around, so I thought if I could reach my tent and sleep, then maybe, just maybe, they would disappear. Day 16, I continued with experimenting on my base defense builds. I was finally able to get up some sort of fence with spikes, but unfortunately, later that day, I was attacked by another mob of cannibals. And yeah, they just totally destroyed whatever I built. So I may need to rethink the strategy. Seems like it wasn't working. Day 17, I had a surprise visit by the three-legged lady. Virginia was the name, and I did do some research before. Apparently, I could actually befriend her, and by doing that, she would become our ally. What I needed to do was stay in her space and not spook her off. Then she would do some weird type of dance, and that's basically it. Well, I don't really know what to say, other than maybe I smelt or something, because after all of that, she still ran away. Am I missing something here? Day 18, I stocked up on some meat that I got from taking out some turtles and then decided to hit the road. I was off to my next point of interest. But before I go, guess what? Somehow, when I entered my little base area, Virginia was there and she wasn't afraid. So I figured at that point, she was actually my ally. Pretty cool to have one. Anyways, back to exploring the next area. When I reached the spot, it seemed to be another bunker. Although, there wasn't much going on there. No loot, no items, no anything, really. Just a door with a keycard access point. So yeah, with not much to do, I went ahead and set up camp and spent the night there. Days 19 to 20, I returned back to my base, or sort of something that resembles a base. What I did know is that I felt really comfortable and safe at this spot, so I decided to chill here a bit, fending off hordes of cannibals and taking care of some weird mutant babies. Other than that, I was pretty much sorted here. I had access to water nearby and a whole lot of food right by my doorstep. This was the sweet spot. The next few days, I decided to explore the rest of the island, stocked up on food and water as I knew I had a long road ahead of me. On my journey, I had passed through some incredible sights, from jaw-dropping towering mountains to golden sandy beaches. I was even lucky enough to find one of the safest little islands out there. That's where I was able to get a few things so that I could set up camp and take a little break from the adventure I was having. By day 23, I finally made it around the map and back to the crash site. Knowing I was close to the bunker and really tired from all that footwork I've been doing, I opted to go straight in and crash for the rest of the day. Day 24, it was off to yet another cave. Yeah, this one was just as spooky and freaky looking. And it had even more spine-crawling, hair-raising, unearthly mutants. There was so much more of those mutants that had that some type of open body look. And man, did they hit hard. Did I mention how scary they looked? In any case, this cave had to be done, as I needed the items it held in its belly. There was no way on earth that I could run past these guys. I simply had to clear each area and move as slow as I could, hoping that they wouldn't get the better of me. After countless cave rooms and hordes of mutants, I finally reached the rebreather. I was so freaking happy to grab it and complete this cave. Then, all I had to do from there was make my great escape. Day 25. Nothing much happened here. I just spotted a weird looking mutant out in the open and decided to toy around with it. I can't say I bit off more than I could chew. Still though, I managed to take it out before moving on over to a bunker in preparation for my next cave dive. Oh boy. Not another one. I believe this was the final cave I had to do. The previous cave items were needed to complete this very cave. Although this time around, I was able to avoid those mutants for the most part. As for the others, I had to use my wits. You see, I figured that these creeps couldn't swim. So kiting them towards her really helped, as they couldn't swim and just sank to the bottom. But again, there were just insane amounts of mutants in this cave. And you know what's the best part to all of this work? I had to do all of these caves and defeat like a bazillion mutants, all for this puny little shovel. That's just great, right? So, day 27. Now that I had a shovel, I set off towards the gravesite I had found previously. Reaching that area, Calvin and I were met by a tribe of cannibals. I tried going the passive way by using a cross and hoped that it would scare them off. That didn't seem to work, so brute force was the way to go. Unfortunately, there were too many of them to fight at once, so I decided to leave the area and lay low for a while. Returning to the site, I had the freedom to start excavating the grave. By doing that, I was able to obtain the shotgun. Now they're speaking my language. Day 28. I had reached another excavation site. Clearing the earth around the area, I had revealed a maintenance hatch. Intrigued by this discovery, I went in to explore, finding yet another bunker with many secrets. I found more supplies and another 3D printer. I also spotted a laser sight for my pistol. And most importantly, the next clue, a maintenance keycard. Oh yeah, there were also some of these tiny little mutant babies that I needed to take care of. Nighty-night, poopy. Not forgetting this sweet fire axe. I'm sure this could do some really good damage. The next day, I made my way to the very first bunker that I discovered. Turns out, I had found the keycard to access the locked door. I was so ready for whatever was behind that door. To my surprise, it was sort of like a chill pad. Not what I was expecting. I continued exploring this bunker. Yep, there were mutants in here too. I had to be very cautious, scoping out every room and clearing them out from all of those mutants. Making my way to one of the lounges where I spotted the next keycard, then continued examining the other rooms for more clues, and that's when I found the chainsaw. Oh boy, now this is cool. Day 31 to 32, I decided to head back to my base on the other side of the map. But this time I wanted to cut across the mountains. I was just really curious about what I could find up there. It didn't disappoint. I did find a really cool snow cave with a few supplies. And then, making my way up to the summit of the mountain. Man, was I taken away by those views? It was simply amazing making it that far. Taking it all in, I decided to set up camp and chill there for the night. The next day I made my way back to the base, and for the first time in a long while, I felt at ease. Certainly, home sweet home. Sorta. As I was still very new to this world, I knew very little on how things worked. I decided that it would be best to start learning about building and crafting different structures. So I was off cutting down trees for logs and hauling them back to base. I then started messing around with a few builds, obviously not knowing what the heck I was doing, but doing something nonetheless. However, just as I was about finished with building whatever I was building, a tribe of cannibals appeared. So I cowered at the back of the platform, hoping to go unseen. And somehow, it kinda worked, as most of the tribe left. But one huge kahuna. Man, was he trying to force himself through my defense wall? But alas, he did not know about my little friend. Yeah, sayonara, baby. The next 2 days I worked more on my defenses. I wanted to get that right first before moving on to building a base for myself. While here, I tried using those quarter logs. I thought using them might do damage to those cannibals. Yep, all the while still trying to defend my fort from those cannibal attacks. And with stones too. I was just messing with them. But anyways, I kinda liked how this turned out. Looks pretty sweet. For days 36 and 37, I spent my time learning about the different kind of structures that I could build. You know, just to get a feel of things and how they worked here. Then I had this cool idea while browsing the manual they provided. Spikes! A whole lot of spikes. Those should come in handy for my base defenses. I got Calvin to get me a bunch of sticks while I spaced them out and into the ground to create this really awesome spike wall of death. However, I wasn't quite done yet, as this spike wall of death still needed a bit of work. But it seemed it still did the job. Yeah, look at those creeps. Up! Days 38 to 41, I took the scenic route to my next destination, exploring more snowy caves and unlocking the secrets within. And also, camping in a spot with one of the most beautiful of views. One cool thing out of this though, was that I was finally able to try out the sled. Now that was freaking fantastic. It was pretty quick, but also quite uncontrollable. The good news is that I was able to live and tell that tale. So I made my way to the next maintenance hatch. Not knowing what to expect, I dived in. Fortunately, this was a pretty tiny area, so I knew this bunker wasn't gonna be that much of a challenge for me. However, I did manage to find a revolver there. And on day 41, I was back to the safety of my base. As you may know, I was quite a distance away from trees, and logistically, it was quite a pain in the butt. So I decided to do something about it and tried out this ingenious idea. Using the rope gun and some logs, I was able to build this marvelous piece of work. And what do you know? It actually freaking worked. Now how cool is that? Over the next few days, I kept on experimenting, working on my base and got some foundations up. I also decided to beef up my defenses, adding another layer of walls and more layers of spikes. But you know what's the best part of this base location? It only had one side to defend, which means I could actually go all out and make this place really safe, maybe even unraidable. You'll never know. Now that I had access to another locked door, I had to go and check it out. Oh man, was I in for a treat.
Get down, son!
Once I woke, everything was back to normal, and I was alone yet again. So I pressed onwards, fighting more mutants that got in the way and searching every nook and cranny for anything that could help. This place was quite a huge building with a multitude of floors, each with a labyrinth of rooms. And in this very building, I was able to obtain the pistol rail, the shotgun rail, the golden armor, and the golden mask. With all of those goodies, I was done and was ready to make my way out of there. Days 48 and 49, I was back at base, and straight away I was back at work, chopping down trees and using this oh so freaking cool contraption to get them back to base. There I focused more on fortifying my spikes, as I realized you could actually reinforce them with stones. I also did a little more work to my base, getting up walls this time around. Still, I needed to get a whole lot of logs to complete this build. Oh yeah, let's not forget about those pesky freaking cannibals, man. They don't seem to give you a break, do they? Oh yes, I did forget to mention that I got this katana from the previous place. Yeah, just so you know. Before committing on finishing up my base, I decided to go out for one last road trip. At this point, I couldn't really take another creepy mutant cave, or a bunker for the matter of fact, but it had to be done. So I set my course for the next bunker, hoping to get the final piece of the puzzle. Reaching the bunker, I stopped and prepared myself as best as I could, though I must say, it wasn't that bad. I mean, for the most part, there were lights giving it a better vibe. Don't get me wrong, as there were still many mutants roaming the hallways. However, I had enough practice on how to deal with them, so it was no biggie. Anyways, I was able to grab a crossbow, then made my way through an indoor water maze into a surveillance room. And that had some very interesting footage, might I add. Still, that was not what I needed to get. What I needed was this, the VIP key card. I was also able to get Virginia a change of clothes. Figured out she really needed one. While on my way back to base, I visited a few of the other bunkers and nearby sites, stocking up on some supplies for the days ahead. Finally, making it home, on day 54. For the next several days, I enjoyed the lighter side of the island. Now to me, that was the part I loved the best. I'm not much of that mutant cave diving, bunker raiding with freaky, creepy mutants kind of guy. Just plain old give me a spot to build and defend and I'm happy for days. That's exactly what I did for the next days ahead. But first, I needed to simplify things because hauling wood and getting water was a bit of a chore. So I came up with a plan. Zip lines. Why not use zip lines to quicken the task at hand? Now that worked like a charm. From there, the days ahead were pretty much the same. Hence why I chose to speed things up a bit. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy every single minute of it. It just wouldn't really make for a good viewing experience. Basically, it was sort of a rinse-repeat kind of process. Making sure I kept my vitals checked by getting enough food and water, which by the way, I had plenty of. Turtles, birds, and on a few occasions, I got some fish. I even tried dried out meat. Yeah, that doesn't have the same effect as a cooked meal. Oh, as for the water story, I went a bit overboard with that by adding more zip lines. Now that felt awesome, going out for a drink of water with style. Then there was the chopping down of trees. Lots of trees, might I add, for them logs, shipping them over to the base and painstakingly positioning those logs in such a way that it represented the vision I had for my base. At the end of the process, this is what I had created. Certainly looks amazing, and I was really chuffed about it. It also looked really good at night too. Let's not forget the countless hours spent on maintaining my defenses, every so often repositioning and repairing the spike wall of death. It was truly a spike wall of death because almost every day I was pestered by those darn freaking mutants. Day after day my defenses stood strong, and not a single day did I ever have a cannibal or mutant enter my base. Oh yes! And I didn't forget to have some fun on the side. That stun baton, quite a masterful piece of work that is. I just loved how those cannibals had the shakes. Most funniest and the most satisfying thing I'd ever seen. And as for Calvin and Virginia, they weren't safe from the wrath of my stunner either. What little screams. So I left these few days to check up on the update that was on the horizon. As soon as it dropped, I went straight ahead in search for the glider. Luckily, I didn't have to search too long, as one quick Google search helped locate the glider. So yeah, a huge thank you. Then it was time to test it out. I found the highest points that I could make it up to with the glider, and well, took off. It was the best feeling ever. You don't know how great it is to feel having covered a huge distance but not having to deal with any of those cannibals and mutants. It was simply amazing. I still had a few days left to go before I reached 100 days, so I chose to work more on my base, adding a few modifications from the update, like covering up this huge hole for instance, and the new door lock. Adding those gave my base some cool finishing touches. Of course, I still had to maintain my spikes and keep defending my base from those troublesome cannibals. Day 99, as it was the last day at my base, I decided to switch things around. I would be the pesky raider today. Equipped with explosives and a crossbow, I went over to annoy my neighbors. They had no idea what hit them, running around like headless chickens and even bringing in reinforcements. It was so hilarious watching them crap themselves. Freaking priceless, I tell you. Good times. Good times. Anyways, long story short, I wiped them out. This is it, peeps. Day 100. Time to end it all and take on the last bunker. I equipped myself with a full set of armor that I collected over the time, made sure I had everything I needed, and went in. It started off very slow, with not much to do, just a bit of sightseeing. But then I got to a bar area. Now that was stocked with a whole lot of ammo and supplies. I must admit, that got me a bit worried. I then reached a golden door, and that gave me access to an underground cave. Just great, I thought, as I knew exactly what was coming. Mutants! And these were some mutants that I haven't seen much of. Not knowing much about these type of mutants, I worked very slowly, clearing the area from all of its inhabitants as best as I could. What I didn't realize is that the cross actually worked wonders with these mutants. You just had to be really patient with it. I pressed on and made my way through this cave, making sure to take care of any and all mutants. This cave system seems like it was never going to end. And those mutants, well, they kept on coming. And I was starting to wonder if I was going the right way. All I knew was I had to take care of those mutants first. And after that was done, well, I found this corridor. And it led me to some weird freaking golden box thingy-mabobsy. Anyways, this is what happened.